advertisers would have caught on to that, wouldn't you? Like, yeah, okay. So the day after Thanksgiving, any number of thousands of people in this valley set their alarm clocks for an insanely early wake-up time and hustled off to the mall. And if we can judge by the news clips of all the Black Friday shopping, in about the next 15 minutes, everybody managed to fill their baskets with new flat-screen TVs and designer jeans and the newest espresso makers and gift cards and the latest dolls and beeping, buzzing electronic toys and everything else you could possibly get into your cart. My guess is that at least some of us were wise enough not to join in the Happy Madness. Let's see how many of you were smart enough not to. Good job. We think about these things. We may have woken from sleep early, but we had an extra cup of coffee with someone we love. And my guess is that even if we did join the Happy Madness, and it's really okay, you don't have to be embarrassed if you were one of the people at the mall at 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Even if we did join the Happy Madness, my guess is that possibly the contents of our baskets and their ultimate destinations might be a little different from a lot of those other shoppers. Because my guess is, as people of faith, we shop as people of faith, just like we do everything else. And so my guess is, instead of designer jeans in our basket, we might have gotten some not-so-designer, like, socks are gone. Julie had them. Some not-so-designer socks that are warm to take to the day shelter. And maybe instead of getting one of those I cannot believe how expensive kids' toys are. $99.99 for an electronic toy that will beep and buzz and is going to keep one child happy for maybe an hour and a half on Christmas morning. We may have opted to not do the $99.99 buzz and beeps, but we got games. We got Barbie dolls on sale for $5. Or we got some other things that let us give to a whole lot more children. And instead of buying gift cards for future purchases at department stores, a whole bunch of us in the church may have gone home and looked at the alternative gift cards that we purchased that do things like buy school books for kids in Rwanda and bicycle ambulances for injured people in Africa and dental visits to the Marillac Clinic. We too may have shopped till we dropped, but as we were shopping till we were dropping, we managed to remember that Christmas is not our birthday, which is the way we often treat it, and it's not our grandkids' birthday or our nieces and nephews' birthday. Whose birthday is it?
Jesus!
Good job! Yes, it is. If you hadn't said that, I was going to walk out of here and not preach another Advent sermon. It's Jesus' birthday. We try to remember it's Jesus' birthday, and given our really weird attitudes about this season, it's Jesus' birthday instead of our birthday, and it's important to buy things for other people, including total strangers we are never going to meet in our lives. You know, it's no wonder that a lot of those other folk out there in the culture think we are odd. Very, very odd. Indeed, and it's not a surprise. Christians have always been odd folk. I mean, you can go back 2,000 years and look at people in Jesus' time, or just after Jesus' time, when the Christian church was developing as a faith, and people go, oh man, those Christians, they're not only odd, they're dangerous odd, and so we're going to do things like arrest them and torture them and persecute them and kill them and do things like that. It's not safe being odd, and yet it's what our faith calls us to do. Now, my favorite contemporary discussion of this whole notion of how odd we are and how odd we're called to be comes from a woman named Marcia McPhee. She's United Methodist. And our Martha Jones, our handbill director, took a workshop with Marcia this last year and came back. And Martha was kind of raving about Marcia's worship resources. And she brought me back this whole notebook full of stuff. There's great stuff in here for Advent. And I opened it up, and there were like 2 whole pages. And the sermon suggestions were like 4 sentences long. But what I loved was the theme of awed, A-W-E-D, and odd, O-D-D. She says, as people of faith, we are called to be odd, O-D-D, because if we really follow what our faith teaches, the way Jesus models for us, we're going to look really different in how we live from the way a whole lot of other folks, not everybody, but a whole bunch of folks. Yeah, that whole giving to the poor thing, that whole turning your cheek when somebody is rude to you, all those kinds of things. We're odd, and she says we are odd, ODD, because we are also odd, A-W-E-D. Just like the very first Christians were odd, that God would send a child to show us a whole new way of living, to show us a whole different picture of what God's love looks like in the flesh. And so we are odd, and we are odd, and that's a very good thing. Now, McPhee talks about, she says, well, what exactly do we mean by odd? Is it just kind of one of those floating words out there that nobody really knows what it means? So we go, awesome. You know, awesome chicken sandwich. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. What we are talking about in a faith context, awe is that sense of wonder and responding to God's presence in the world. That something happens, maybe we're sitting with someone we like, or we're walking down the street, or we come in and we go, wow, look at the lights, or I get to rest. Somebody came in this morning, they've had company all weekend. She said, I'm getting to rest away from everything. Isn't it wonderful? You know, and we know that God's part of that sense of relaxation and rest and new babies and hope and all of the other things that we're called to see and to be and to notice, especially in this season. My hope is that every single one of us are odd folk and that we are also odd folk. And so each Sunday of this Advent season, we're going to focus on one of the ways that we are seen as odd by so many folks out there in the culture. And today we're going to start with our call as people of faith to create peace, to make peace in the middle of conflict. Now, it is no secret to anybody that our homes, our community, our church sometimes, our nation, our world is filled with conflict. Each Sunday as you come in, there can be more and more newspaper headlines up and down the ends of the aisles. We're going to have more newspaper headlines up there. All you have to do is open a newspaper from here or anywhere to see how much conflict and struggle is going on. And we may wonder as we look at all those really dire headlines, how on earth can we possibly help bring peace to a world that's so broken, so messed up, so at war? How can we possibly believe promises like the one we heard from the prophet Isaiah, where the prophet says some 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, in days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and everybody will stream to it. Everybody will come, and everybody will worship, and they'll come so that they can learn the ways of peace. And an awful lot of it doesn't look like most of us are paying much attention to that. How do we make peace in this world that we live in? And I want to start as reflecting by considering the Hebrew word that is used most frequently, hundreds of times in the Old Testament, to express the notion of peace. It's one we've talked about here before, and that's shalom. We've talked about shalom. Shalom does not just mean peace be with you, although that's part of it. It's a much richer word. It's about wholeness. It's about completeness. It's about health of all kinds. It's about well-being of every kind. And when the Old Testament scriptures call us to bring shalom into the world, to share shalom with the world, they're talking about a very active thing that we are going to bring to replace conflict. A couple weeks ago, I was talking about the notion of, so often we think about peace as simply an absence of war. You know, if we didn't have any more wars, we'd be at peace. That's not what our faith talks about. Our faith is much deeper and richer. It talks about bringing healthy relationships, relationships of respect and mutuality and growth and encouragement and all of those kinds of things, so that we recreate the covenant of love that God has made between God and human beings by recreating that covenant among ourselves. Even if we're kind of aggravated at some human beings who we aren't very interested in being in a covenant of love with because they didn't bring the right kind of food for coffee hour. We've had chocolate cookies 6 weeks in a row. Or we were just in a committee meeting and you were talking about something really crucial like, should we have grated cheese or buy the brick kind and grate it ourselves for the lasagna dinner? Laugh with me, folks. We do those things. And you stop speaking to that person for the next 43 years. We may be in conflict with groups of people. Groups of people that we're hostile toward because their politics are different from ours. Or because they look different from us.